All right, well, fuck, we'll get it started. This
Let's
has
go.
been a long time coming,
Man, I'm a hard man to get onto. I run on blackfella time,
but
so.
I appreciate you coming on.
Oh man, it's been a thing that I've wanted to do. I always like doing these things, and I like what you're doing, man. You're a young man with a young family, and I was once that young man with a young family, and you're trying to do something. It looks like you're emotionally invested in this, and it's something that you really want to do. So I like dudes chasing their dreams, man. And we got a mutual friend, so.
Mikey.
And Mikey, shout out to Mikey. He's a long man. I trained with that boy for a long time, and still give each other shit over Instagram and that. He's still
He loves some banter.
he does, man. He's a funny dude. Oh, Mikey, we used to give each other so much shit at the gym, but big shout out to him, man. Hope he's doing good, and he looks happy with his missus and his dog. In love with both of them, I think he is. He loves his missus and his dog.
He gets whipped hard, but before we get into it, I haven't rolled the intro in the last couple of episodes, so I'll hit it.
Let's go.
What's his name?
Goes hard, this one. All right, before we get into it again, I just want to start off by saying congratulations to you and your missus.
Oh, thank
on
you.
the announcement of the baby. So
thank you.
Congrats, bro. Another
thank
one
you,
coming.
brother. Thank you very much.
What
Another
number
one.
is this?
This is number 6.
Well, you're a busy man.
Machine. I mean, I say this to a lot of people. I'm a good fighter, and I'm a better breeder, and that's saying something because Flemmo's got hands. So.
You got a number in mind that you want to reach? Maybe a footy team.
Man, I didn't know if I wanted to reach this many.
Yeah.
I was done after my third. He's, you know how they say your mum and dad when you were young, like, oh, I hope you have a kid. That's exactly like you. And then you'll see what it's like. I'm getting it back like tenfold, man. My 3-year-old is an absolute animal. Big heart, the best kid, but just crazy, man. And that's saying something. People that have known me, I'm an eccentric out there dude. I think people get that vibe, the things that I post and how out there I am and the things that I say and how forward I am, and anyone that's watched a little bit of my stuff knows I'm a bit of a character. So for me to say
that's why we love you. But
thank you, man. I like being myself, and if people appreciate me being myself, then that's a win, eh? So, but yeah, my 3-year-old, he's just
off the old block,
crazy, man. And I think it's my 5-year-old turning 6. No, 6 turning 6. Man, I've got so many kids that I can't remember. So this year, my oldest turns 10, Bella Rose. My second, Riker, turns 9. Kame, the crazy one, the third one, turns 7. Charlie turns 4, and he's crazy too. Yamani turns 2, and he's a lovely little boy. And then my wife's pregnant she's like 19 weeks with our 6th, and it's a girl. And we've been trying for a girl for so long, but we kept getting boys, so it's a bit of a surprise and a blessing, so we're happy.
Girls are the best. I got a girl.
Oh, man.
Is your TV broken?
Brother, everyone says this. I've got 3 of them. And no, I've got 4, but one's in the garage. So it's just a spare one because my boys have smashed 7 TVs in 6 years.
Wow. What's your favorite thing about being a father, and what's the hardest thing?
Favorite thing is watching these humans grow and just watching where they are and observing and
how their brain works, and how they learn,
how they perceive things. And I swear it's harder being a kid now than when I was a kid. I was saying to someone the other day, get home before the sun goes down for dinner, and try and come home with 2 eyes and all your teeth. Because if you lose one, or you lose an eye or a tooth, Dad's gonna flog you.
That was back in the day.
Dad's gonna flog you because he's got to take you to the hospital because you put your tooth back in, and it's an inconvenience that you knocked out your tooth.
That was the problems back in the day. Now there's freaking distractions and
it's crazy
online shit and toxic shit.
I think social media was a big change, man. I watched a bit of. We talked about Joe Rogan, so I watch a lot of Joe Rogan. Not all the videos all the way through, but I pick and choose the clips. And, you know, I don't have a lot of free time with a big family, so I pick and choose the clips. And I watched one on technology, the social dilemma dude
that
talking.
guy that did the documentary.
Yeah, man, talking about how technology's technology's moving so fast that we can't even perceive.
Oh, he had a good saying that like technology has gone like godlike, but we're still
Caveman. We're like caveman.
We haven't evolved enough yet.
Well, it's when they created social medias, we didn't really realize that it would become what it is.
Yeah,
like it was just like Facebook was just at the start. Like, remember MySpace?
I was too young.
You're too young. So I was like MySpace. I was like a late teen, and I was on MySpace and kind of mucking around on there. And then Facebook come out, and it was like Facebook was the more mature version where you actually had your family and all that stuff. And it was everything. Then you got your news from there and the updates. And if things happened in your area, you could go onto a community page and it become a community.
Yeah.
And I've had friends that I hadn't even met before that I consider real close friends that I've met through social medias.
Yeah. Like you and I Mike put me onto you, but we hit it off on Instagram first. And then we started talking through Instagram.
Because I've got a mate, King Percy. Have you heard of that? King Percy? He does the Aboriginal voiceovers. I consider him like a close friend. And we only met for the first time a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we've been mates for a long time. I've got another mate, Otis Carey, the surfer, Aboriginal surfer. He's sponsored by Billabong. He's an Aboriginal artist, really big in the indigenous. He's awesome. He's been around for a long time, and he's done a lot of things with a lot of, like, he painted Thor, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
He painted his house, like did a big indigenous mural in his house, and he's done stuff for like Google and stuff. Like he's out there. He's sponsored by Billabong.
And you've met him online.
Met him online. I've never met him in person, but and when I first got into art, he kind of helped me find myself, helped me give me a little bit of advice, and help, like, you know, it's hard to know what, working in a new space, it's hard to know what to do, and he just helped me out in little areas and that, and I'm forever grateful of that, but I've still never met him in person. How crazy is that?
It's like, when you actually think about it, like, properly, it's fucking weird, eh?
I mean, you'd have to say the internet is one of the craziest things that we've ever created. Like,
it is. 100%.
I mean, electricity, but we just harnessed it. We didn't really create it. It was there, and we kind of harnessed it and found out how to use it. But the internet, think about this. Before the internet, every bit of information had to be physically written or typed down into books and stored. That's why library, like, you had to go to the library or buy a book to learn.
And that was like what's
how
written.
Fucking crazy is that? And now we've created this invisible universe that has endless storage. Every photo and every bit of information ever recorded is there.
Does that scare you or excite you?
It baffles me.
Yeah.
It's so hard to comprehend. It's almost like, what's a god?
That's true.
And what's the definition of a god? It's a deity or something that can create things. But the definition of a god, is that only what our minds can comprehend?
I feel like the most maybe common definition would be a superior power. And
I mean, we're a superior power to an ant. True. Are we godlike to an ant? I mean, can we even communicate with an ant? Does an ant even perceive that we're there, or do they kind of we're almost godlike to animals? Like, and what, like, it it baffles me. Like, and we've created this invisible universe where now we can store every bit of information we can communicate through. We have pictures. All my picture. I don't have physical Do you have a physical picture? Maybe 2 or 3 that's printed out in a frame.
Yeah, like
Do you remember photo books?
I do. Yeah, I used to have as kids.
My mum and dad had every bit of photo that we had to have been
And
printed out, or like you had a film. Do you remember the films?
Yeah, thinking back, like I feel like
That's Stone Age.
I
That
have
feels
a-
Stone Age. You didn't even
Yeah.
know what photo you were taking. You just pointed and pressed, and then hopefully it come out good. You could and you could have a whole film camera roll that was all shit and blurry because you didn't know how to use it because you could never see the photos. That's so hard to fucking comprehend.
that's weird, eh? Like, but I like the physical world better. Obviously, we're heading into things like the metaverse and stuff.
That's a scary one.
Even just going back to photos, I feel like I have a better feeling inside me when I used to flip through the photo book than I do like looking back at a photo album.
It was
You know
fun.
what I mean? It is, yeah. It's like you
You
feel
know,
like
I
you're
can't,
more there.
I can't
Even though
wait.
the graphics are better and
Yeah.
stuff now, but just seeing like the photo and the
Yeah.
photo book, I don't know, just different feeling.
I can't wait to take, because my kids haven't been home to visit mum in a while. So my mum,
Where's
she
home?
lives up in Brisbane.
That's where you grew
So-
up.
I grew up in Cairns, up near Cairns, in a little town called Tully. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
All right, so it's between Cairns and Townsville. Shout out to all my Tully peeps. So it's a little town between Cairns and Townsville, and it's the highest recorded rainfall in Australia and annually.
Wow.
So floods all the time.
Seriously.
I grew up in the bush, like on 14 acres in the bush, in a house with no doors or windows. Like it's so hard to comprehend when I tell people that. And I had a conversation with one of my old best friends that grew up, like lived there for a few years and become one of my close friends and moved away. And we've stayed friends forever. And we were having a conversation about the things we used to do as kids growing up in the bush. And he lives in the city now, and he's like, we were having a conversation about, I feel sorry for the kids because he's got a couple of boys. Oh, they can't do anything, and you're living in the city, and nothing to do. We used to do this and ride bikes, motorbikes, but and we're having a talk about it. And he goes, I try to explain to people what your house was like, and no one. I was like, it was these. It's so hard to comprehend. I can't even begin.
Just gotta see it.
You just got to see it. It was just different. It was like an old humpy in the bush that Dad kind of done up and. It's crazy. I feel like my childhood has led me to here, and I feel here in my life now I'm the strongest in myself, within myself, than I've ever been in my life. That's the thing. Out of all the achievements I've achieved in my life, or the things I've done, and which is a fair few, I'm most proud of how confident and my self-belief is my proudest achievement.
That's powerful.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, to be myself, to make decisions that I know on my own, to be able to use logic and use common sense in these crazy times,
Not
to
be
be
influenced.
to be open-minded.
That's a big one too.
Far out. And some people have one or two of these things. I feel like I try to look at things always logical. I try to use my common sense, and I try to do every one of them things.
I feel like it might sound simple talking about it when you use like the words common sense and logic, but actually, using logic to the full and your common sense to the full and not being influenced all the time is actually very rare for most people. So I can see how you feel it's like very powerful and it's your biggest achievement because, like, I'd say, like,
looking at the state of things at the minute.
exactly, just current situation right now, the influence.
What would you
things
think
have.
about, like, no one having conversations like that you've had with me, because we've had a fair few now, and the interactions that we've had, and seeing the things, because you obviously see the things I post and talk about and how I interact with people on my socials. What would you feel? Would you feel that that's an accurate assumption
Yeah,
of myself?
yeah. I feel like you're very self-aware. You don't give a fuck what people think of you, but you also do give a fuck about what people that are important to you think of you, which is a positive, obviously. You're proud to be yourself. And this is just based off watching. And now that we have this chat face to face, I feel like that's expressed more.
Reconfirming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's assured that. But how do you think or what was your childhood like to lead you to this?
I get off topic a lot. We're going to go off topic a lot.
Some of the best podcasts do that. If you watch Kanye West and Joe Rogan, how he jumps from this to this to this.
I feel like
I love Kanye.
I feel like I have a little, like, not obviously Kanye's one of the craziest creators, but I just feel like he's like, I don't know. I feel like I got a lot of manic energy, and I feel like he does as well. Like he's a lot like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, and I feel like he's real hard to understand for a lot of people.
He's misunderstood. 100%.
I think he is, but like a few things. I watched one of his podcasts with the
two guys, with the drinks
two
and
dark
stuff.
guys, and I watched that, and one of the things that he said really resonated with me is like when people push and they say this and they're like, people push him, and then he's like, oh, and when he acts up, they're like, oh yeah, Kanye's wilding out, and it's like, what do you expect me to be like? You got me in this group chat and this, that, and people pushing, and the life that he lives a crazy life, dude. Like, crazy money, crazy dreams. He wants to do everything. He's got this manic energy. All eyes on him every second.
Media stories spinning off the minute.
Man, that's
every little life. Thing he does, like how he moved closer to his kids. He was talking about he bought a house closer to his kids.
Have you listened to his new song?
I heard bits of it, but they're like, Kanye's trying to win back him, and he's stalking, and he's not allowed in the house, and he's like, bro, I just wanted to be closer to my kids.
He goes, and isn't that like, if you could buy a house in maybe across a whatever to be closer to your kids, and you had that money in that, as if you wouldn't want to be closer to your kids going through this,
How hard would it be to deal with all of that, eh? Every little thing you do is going to get judged or, pulled out there to millions of people, and they're all going to...
I think a lot of us think that it's a great thing.
Nah, bro, it's so hard to live with.
I think because what comes with it, they see the cars and the money and the jewels, and people like, I think they get a lot of acceptance, and people like look at them as superior to normal people. I think that's alluring to a lot of people, because a lot of people don't have any self-worth. Maybe that's not the right word, self-worth, but they don't know who they really are.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. I just wanted to give a quick shout out and say thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, comment. It helps with the algorithm and all of that. It helps the channel grow and helps me chase my dreams. If you're watching, thank you again. Really support it. Hope you're enjoying it. Get back to the podcast.
Inside,
self-awareness.
Self-awareness. Like, do you really like the job that you're doing? Like, who are you really? Like, I watched, there's a little clip that I shared, and this guy goes, who are you? And people's reply is, well, I'm Paul Fleming, or I'm blah.
I've got to stop you there, because I was going to ask you that question. It's on here. And I wanted to draw back on, have you seen a Jay-Z one? Where the lady says, I'll try and pull it up. Actually, no, don't worry. I'll pull it up later. The lady goes, so who are you? Just expecting him to say Jay-Z. Yeah. And he says, oh, well, I'm Jay-Z. I'm from here. I'm this, I'm that. It's saying all his values. Yeah. So I want to ask you, who are you in a deep,
meaningful way? I'm a father. I'm a proud father. I'm an Indigenous man. I'm a survivor. My family are survivors. I'm a proud man. I'm also a sinner. I also make a lot of mistakes daily. I'm a man who has traumas. I'm a man who's seen a lot of things. I'm a man who's been through a lot of things. I'm a man trying to find his way in this crazy, crazy world that seems to get crazier day by day. Sometimes it's hard being in my own head. Sometimes it's hard trying to trying to work through things, trying to be better. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, the older I get, the more I become self-aware, the more I realize, like, how crazy my childhood was. And
let's draw back on that a bit. What was it like?
Strange, man. Now looking back on it and looking at the life that my kids have, it was strange. Like, living out in the bush with a father who had been through trauma and didn't really know how to deal with it, and a mum who'd been through trauma and it felt stuck. It was strange, man, and thinking that's a normal life, thinking that's a normal reality, to see them kind of things and, you know, see domestic violence, all levels of it, like whether it be emotional, whether it be financial, whether it be, you know, just controlling who can call and who you talk to and who can call the house. And like, I remember before I started going to school at 6, there'd be like months where no one had come visit and you'd be stuck out there.
Who'd you have at home? Was it
just me, mum and dad until I was 9, and then my mum fell pregnant late in, like, my mum's now 65, I think. And my dad passed away a few years back.
Sorry to hear that.
I mean, we're all going there. It's crazy, you know. I don't really, and it's sad, you know, and that's what scares me a lot, like, to be able to talk about your father who passed away and not really even get emotional about it. It's real sad, you know what I mean? Because that's my biggest fear. Like, I want to be remembered by the people that
in a positive
mean the most. Yeah, in a positive way. And, you know, it's hard to pick out some good times amongst all that, because that stuff sticks out the most, you know what I mean? That stuff kind of overrides all the good times that were there. And yeah,
I guess the positive out of that is you're so aware of all of this now, so that you can be, I'm not disrespecting your father or anything, but you can be different. So, and
well, we're calling it what it is better. Be a better father.
Make it better for your kids.
Yeah. You know, I've still, you know, traits come through, man. Like, the way you deal with certain situations, the way you get over it. And I think everyone does it. You know, you talk to people and they're like, even how you let some people, how some people let people talk to them, that's a form of, you know, a bit of trauma. You know, you let someone talk down to you in a way, and you don't have enough self-worth. Like, it all comes in many facets and many ways. And I mean, being aware of it, I'm more aware of it now. I'm trying my best to work through my faults and, you know, be the best father I can be and be the best husband I can be. And, you know, my family, I put my family through a lot, and we've been through a lot together, my family, you know what I mean? Like, it's just me and my wife. We've going to be 6 kids. We've never had any family to help us. We don't have a day off. It's just,
that's
you know,
hard, man, for people that don't have kids. I just have one, and that's like, it's hard. It's a lot
it's crazy.
It's 24/7, literally 24/7. You don't stop thinking about it. You don't stop doing things for your family. Like, you don't get a second off.
What about the pressures? What about the pressures as well? Like, we talk about the physical things, but what about the pressures that come with being a father, being a role model, being a provider?
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes that gets overlooked a lot.
Does.
You know, be like, oh, I'm tired because I've been running around doing things for but what about them pressures? What about the pressures of having a daughter and the things that you're trying to keep in? Like, it's so hard to keep these things away from your kids that you don't want around your kids. Like,
you don't want to wrap them in bubble wrap. And
exactly. Like, how do you let them be themselves and learn and live, and also protect them at the same time? Like, where's the line between overprotecting and protecting them enough? Where's the line of being a best friend but also being the disciplinary and being the father? It's a challenge, man. And, you know, I'm deep with my thinking, so I think about it a lot. And it's crazy.
When do you think you, like, maybe flicked a switch and started becoming more self-aware or thinking about these things more often? Do you think when you had your first child, or?
I'll tell you this, man. I think the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, I've become more of a man than I ever had in my whole life. the changes I went through over the last 3 years have been crazy, man. I went from like out of the boxing ring, not fighting.
I was gonna say, and that correlates
Yeah.
here with I have here that you had where is it? 5 fights from 2016 to 2018, and then your next fight was 2020 December.
Yeah.
So that's the same time frame.
Yeah.
What happened in those 3 years?
Um.
That was a mix of COVID starting.
Yeah, like there'd been a few things, like, you know, I think we come to a point with my old trainer and stuff and the management where things weren't, I don't know, they'd lost a little bit of momentum with it. I'd lost a little momentum with it. We were trying to get it back. I don't know. Just things were off, I think.
You pulled away.
I don't know. I think 99% of breakdowns is because of lack of communication. If people could just explain themselves the right way, all people,
100%.
all people, myself, the 99% of the fights at home that I have with my wife, not like there's a lot of them. We all have disagreements. I say fights. It can be a disagreement. It can be an heated
thing.
debate.
Yeah.
It can be anything like that. But half the time it gets there is because one of us, majority my fault.
I'm on the same boat.
Majority my fault, had a breakdown in communication. And I think that's what it was. It was just a breakdown in communication. They'd hit a wall. I'd hit a wall.
This is your management?
Management and trainer. For whatever reason, you know, it happened, and we kind of left that, and I left my trainer kind of thing, and I wasn't doing anything, and then kind of ran into an old friend, Brad Hartman. He introduced me to a guy named Jared, and we got to talking, and we started this Dreamtime Fighters, and off we went, and he gave me a second win on it.
I want to get into that and how you started boxing and that time period, but back a little bit before we leave the deep thinking, was it when maybe you pulled away from management and trainers when you started becoming more self-aware or putting more time and effort into?
If you want it, this will go down a completely different path. So I went through a bout of depression. I never had depression before. I went through a bad bout of depression.
During this time here?
During this time of this time off, you know, not having an identity, having small kids, not being able to find a lot of work. My wife had to go back to work. And
that was partly because you pulled away from boxing?
Yeah,
which was your identity?
because, everything, you know, not doing things for myself, not knowing how to make myself happy, not knowing what would make me happy. Just the pressures. We talk about the pressures of being a father and not being able to provide. The money wasn't coming in like it was.
Let me just repress that button. Sorry, bro.
Good, bro.
Yeah, the pressures.
The pressures of not being able to provide like a father can, and all that, just carrying the world on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
It just got to me, and you know, I went and talked to someone, and you know, I find it real hard to talk to people. I never really had anyone to talk to my whole life, so it's really hard. And suffering with ADHD, I had it bad when I was a kid. Like,
what's that like? Is that just?
I don't know, because I've had it my whole life, so it's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to describe, but listen, if anyone wants to watch something that kind of explained it and made me understand, Joe Rogan you type in Joe Rogan ADHD, I'll send it to you, and she explains. First, she goes, "I'll explain concentration," and there's
doctor,
she's a doctor, a psychologist, or whatever, and she explains ADHD is like 3 forms of concentration. I'm not going to get into it because she does a better job than I will. I'll fumble the ball and knock it on 1,000 times if I try to do it. But go on and have a read of that. And when I listened to that, so go on and have a listen. When I listened to that, I was like, oh, okay, I understand it a little bit more. But it's all just forms of communication, like, you know, having that voice in your head, that subconscious that redirects you to doing something, you know, that can be a miss with ADHD, or having this concentration. That's the pinpoint concentration.
Yeah.
Like a flashlight, the lady explained. You know, that can be yanked and pulled away. Like, put you in a dark room, and that's your concentration. And if you can't focus and you're constantly yanking it away when you hear something, that's another form of concentration that they struggle with. And the other one is these. She explains them like floodlights that keep you aware of everything, and they're either on and stuck on, or they're not on at all, and you just got this on, and the ADHD kids can't pick it up. So there's multiple forms of it, and I think I suffer with all of it, and not really knowing it. I was illiterate until I was 25. I didn't get my learner's license till I was 25 years old.
Wow.
Like, there were years where I go past, like, I'm talking legitimate years where I would not read. I would not read any information because I couldn't. And smartphones helped me kind of
simplify
everything in that. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, I see my son has ADHD now, and watching that and seeing that, it's a weird thing. It's a disability.
Yeah.
It's covered. He gets NDIS funding, and the NDIS funding just goes to his therapies. That's all it does. So he gets funding, so we don't have to pay for therapies. And he goes to therapies for like OT, occupational therapy, to help him with his attention. And he's got a little bit of a speech delay for his concentration, so they help with his speech a bit. But it's crazy, man. And living with it, and living with being illiterate my whole life, like, when I learnt to read, and that's like this whole other world opened up for me.
Yeah.
And
I said reading's powerful as it is. And then imagine not reading for so long, being aware of everything, and then like learning to read.
Well, not only just like being able to read, but being able to understand where you can get the information from.
Yeah.
You know, like, not necessarily just reading books and that, but I could know how to search things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just simple.
It's what you're actually reading. Yeah.
Like actual simple things. Like, I know how to search things up. Knowing how to use a website properly, read the things, go to the checkout, summarize, and then put my... It can be simple enough as reading the details to order something online, and reading the mailing thing. Which mailing do you want to do? How much money you... Figuring out how much money you got. But budgeting is a form of reading and maths, and kind of writing down, like, I need this for that.
It's every part of life.
It is everything, and I never had it my whole life, man. And now I read a lot of shit now. Like, I read constantly, but the things I want to read. And that's the good thing about the internet, man. Being able to read the things that you want to read. Like, I can search up anything at the touch of a button that I want to read. So... But anyway, back to what we were saying about when did I... I
forgot the question. I'm glad you remember.
When did I become aware? So I went through depression, ADHD my whole life, kind of figuring out that kind of weird thing. Went through a big change. It was at 30, man. 30 hit me. Not turning 30, but just... I don't know, something about 30 hit me like a ton of bricks. I went through depression, and I didn't want to get on antidepressants because I've heard a lot of stuff about them. I heard it's hard to get off them, and I was looking into alternative things and watching a lot of Joe Rogan. I got into...
Kanye talks about a little bit too, how he says, like, I was on all this medication. They keep feeding me this medication. It was stunting my thinking. I couldn't think for myself.
Well, isn't that the first thing that they, like, it's weird. When you go there, it's the first thing that they do is offer you medication. It's not like, okay, are you exercising?
Yeah.
How's your diet? How's your relationships? How you feel about yourself? On a scale of 1 to 10, do you think you're worthy? Are you worthy? Do you feel worthy? Do you feel you're accomplishing your goals? And then they're like, if they're going, no, I'm like, well, maybe you need to do some inward before I shove this medication down your throat that's you're going to become addicted and reliant on it. It says as a side effect, it's going to make you more depressed until it makes you better. So I'm like I don't have time. Wait a second. I already told you that I'm depressed and I feel worthless and I feel like some people like I want to kill myself and I've got to take this medication and for a month it's going to make me feel like I'm going to want to kill myself. I already want to kill myself. What does that equal to? Killing myself? I don't want to kill myself. I don't want to take this medication.
I'll tell you why. It's all money. Well, that's what I think anyways.
I mean, I could agree. I think that it's easy to keep you as a lifelong customer than to cure you. I mean, chemotherapy, I think it works. I think there's alternatives, but chemotherapy, it's one of its major.
You have to pay for that?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm never sick, so I don't even know.
One day, like we were saying, I'm gonna have a Jamie that will say, "Can you search that up, Jamie?"
Yeah, we need a Jamie over in that ping pong table
on this tape on the TV there.
We need a Jamie. Yeah, I'm not sure, but like one of the side effects of chemotherapy is cancer.
Seriously,
I swear to God, it's weird, man. It's weird. So I didn't really want to go. I'd seen my wife go through that, and I didn't want to be relying on something, and I didn't really want something. Yeah, I didn't know. Like, I've never been a person that's gone to the doctors all the time unless I've needed to. Like, if I've had a temp and I felt sick, I just like laid out in the sun and drank red cordial and like, I swear this solved everything. I swear. When you like woke up in the morning, you're like, oh, Dad, I feel sick. You go, right, son, I gotta call the son. You come home with a icy pole, a lemonade, and a bottle, and them throaties, man. I swear that'd cure malaria.
I want
like,
everyone
a lemonade,
everyone
an icy
watching,
pole.
comment your home remedies. My dad was lavender oil. He'd put it on my temples, under here, and on my pillow.
Yeah. But that's
and
like
honey,
that makes sense.
honey.
That makes sense.
Honey for every single
Cause
graze.
lemonade. Oh, I got a sore tummy. I got a tummy ache. Yeah, go drink that lemonade.
Fizzy lemonade.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
parents too. Yeah.
Ice block. Oh, you want to? I gotta go get them icy blocks out. The friends like, hey, get my icy pole. Go get yourself an icy pole. Zupa Dupas. Go get yourself a bloody Zupa Duper. And like, oh, my throat. Look in your throat, you got pus on your tonsils. Get you a pack of throaties. Pack of throaties? I need some antibiotics. Like, my throat is infected and on fire. I can hardly breathe. Throaties are fixing up. It just made it numb, so you shut up. I swear your dad's like, shut the fuck up and eat them throaties.
Everyone comment your home
Throaties.
remedies.
Do they even make throaties anymore? I don't know. Anyway, so I was struggling. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't really trust it because I'm not like, I don't really trust it, you know what I mean? So watching Joe Rogan, and I heard him talking about DMT and how it can help and how people have had addiction and trauma. And I know I've got some trauma from my childhood and trauma-based reactions and behaviors. So I'm like, oh. And then I was struggling with depression and all these things. Is that rain? It sounds like it's rain. It's going. That's going off. I like the sound of rain at night. How good is it? Rain at night. So good. Anyway, that's good. I like that. It's calming. So
setting the scene.
Yeah, it is. It's setting the scene for this. So anyway, yeah, I'd seen how he'd post a lot about a lot of stuff about DMT, and I started reading into it. And ayahuasca is obviously DMT, and people go over to South America to do ayahuasca, and I'm like, wait a second. These drugs that they sell us are drugs in this country. They call them drugs as well. But things that grow out of the ground naturally, they're the same.
No,
here?
They're worse.
They're worse? I don't know. I don't know if anyone's ever taken a Zenny before. Them things are scary. Zennies aren't no joke. They are scary. You heard about, oh man, sleepers, like Valiums and Zennies and Still Knocks, all these sleepers and shit. Like, they're like all these downers, they're actually crazy. Like, I've tried them before and I hated it, man. It was weird. It was like you're in like some weird, you're not yourself, man. You're not yourself. So, but in these other countries, these things that we call drugs here in these Western worlds are medicines.
In other cultures.
In other cultures, they're medicines. So ayahuasca and all these like native people, like mushrooms and stuff. And now in America, now they're doing trials with psilocybin mushrooms. You go to places and you go see a psychologist, and they do so. They're looking into it here.
Creeping in, like you have things like Life Cycle. I've tried.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Life Cycle?
The mushroom
the bio,
tinctures.
Yeah, and they have it in liquids. I've tried it, and they have like reishi, lion's mane, and all those.
Yeah, I've got some of them sent to me. They tried them out and that, but
I don't know if it kind of worked for me for a bit. I don't know if it's placebo, and then I stopped using them.
But if placebo works, does it still work?
Exactly. That's what I was telling my friends, and they're like, "Should I get it?" I'm like, "They're like, nah, it's placebo." I'm like, "But it's still, I'm sleeping better."
I mean, if it's working, it's working, right?
But yeah, these types of things are creeping in slowly, because they're finding ways to make money off them.
I think so. But you know, it's good for us. You know, it gives us alternatives and gives us other things that we can try. And so yeah, I end up somehow getting my hands on some. And
how was it? I've only known one person that's ever tried it, and I'm always asking him.
There's three things in my life that are the biggest things in my life, right? That the biggest changing points in my life.
This is DMT.
So there's three things, right, within my life, and boxing was one. Boxing.
We haven't even touched on boxing.
Yeah, this is crazy. So boxing is one, having kids is another, and within that same spectrum, as big as them two other things, trying psychedelics is my third biggest life-changing thing within that spectrum. It was.
That has that big of an effect on the magnitude.
I mean, you watch anything about people that have tried it, talking about it, and they'll say the same thing. Like Mike Tyson talks about it, as the single. Like he goes, if I would have tried it, I remember he said, if I would have tried it before boxing, he goes, I may have never even boxed.
Because he was violent back in the day, wasn't he?
Have you heard him talk now? He's so dear. You ever watch Hot Boxing?
I was listening to him. I was listening to him actually today after work. Yeah. Because he's on the Nelk Boys. He's always on the Nelk Boys. Oh yeah,
you were telling me about that. Yeah.
He was on there. He did a full podcast with them.
He must like him to go back on there. I got to check him out.
He loves them.
Send me some of their things.
I will. And then he just popped in again to bring them like a big bag of weed. And Dana White was there doing a podcast. So he jumped on for 15 minutes. He's like, I got to go. My lips are chapping. I got to smoke a joint.
Oh, man. Man, it's crazy to watch the evolution of him. You know what I mean? And he
puts that down to DMT.
Okay. So that's the same thing with me. Like I went through such a big spiritual and emotional, you know how I said about them 2 years, that was part of it. That was a big changing pivotal point. Like down to the fact of like, so I'm an Aboriginal artist now. Like I'm the first Indigenous artist to design something for the Summer Olympic Games. The Olympic Games just gone.
I saw that. Yeah.
Their most successful Olympic Games ever. The skateboarder won a gold medal, the first ever gold medal, wearing the uniform I designed. The Paddy Mills holding up his bronze medal, wearing my shirt that I hand painted at my house.
Seriously. Wow.
I swear to God. So I'm the first ever Indigenous artist. I think the Paralympics and Winter Olympics had done it before, but for the Summer Olympics, first time ever. So that's a big achievement. And I'd never painted before in my life until about 3 or 4 weeks after I tried DMT. I don't know if you can explain that any other way. I never painted my whole life.
What was the trip like? What were you seeing, or what did you feel after?
It's so hard to explain. Like it is beyond. Like it's beyond language. Like when you realize language can only explain what we know, what's relative to us. Like our language, the words, our actual language can only explain things that we can comprehend. So how do you explain things? What words can you use to explain things that they don't exist here? You got nothing to compare it to.
And that might sound like a little bit like maybe crazy, but you hear it all the time when someone says after a championship, how does this feel? Oh, words can't describe. After you have a baby, how does this feel? How much do you love your child? Words can't describe.
This is like, even down to the things you see, like, so how do you explain so if I was to explain that blue to you, I'd be like, it's an aqua aqua blue on this picture here, and and you can understand. I go, there's different shades of blue to darker to lighter and you can understand in your head.
Yeah.
So how do you explain a color that doesn't exist in this world and has no reference?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not any of the colors from the rainbow, and it doesn't exist.
This is what you're seeing.
Yeah, you see that all the time. Like a shape, right? If you explain a shape, oh yeah, the room or this thing, it's kind of like a triangle with a flat circular bottom, and it's got these things. You can kind of go, oh yeah, triangle, flat. How do you explain a shape that does not exist in this world that you haven't explained before, and it's got no reference?
Did you see Elves?
I've seen so many things, man. I've done it.
Have you heard the one with Joe?
Mechanical Elves?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen them.
That's so fucking trippy, bro. How all these people from all around the world doing the same natural drug. Medicine. Better word for it. See
the same sort of things. Yeah.
In their own experiences that relate to them, but have same like denominators.
I've watched myself third person like a video game. Like I've seen myself. I've felt myself die, like take my last breath, and then my soul leave my body. Like it,
that's
and
scary.
It's the scariest thing you'll ever do in your life.
So that's what Mike Tyson says. It kills his ego, and
ego death. Yeah, it's the scariest thing you'll ever do in your life. Person. It's like jumping out of a spaceship in space. But it's like the metaverse. Listen to this. It's like the metaverse. But you don't know which universe you're going to go to, and you don't know what avatar you're going to be.
Oh, that's crazy.
And every time you do it, you're a different avatar, having a different experience in a different universe that's completely different. And you can interact with the universe, and the universe interacts with you. Not just the things in the universe, but the whole place, the environment interacts with you like it's alive. And then you see things that are so far beyond anything, but it feels familiar, and you feel like, it's like you're crazily surprised by it, but almost like, oh my God, what is that? Oh yeah, that's what it is. And you kind of understand. It's weird. You understand.
Yeah, I've listened to Joe and his guests try and describe it, and like, he had an example. They were shouting something at him, and then he goes, oh, that's why they're shouting it. It's because of this weird experience I had, and this is how I feel. So what's something after however many times you've done it, what's something that you take away from it?
Man.
It could probably be 1,000 things, but like what's one?
I don't fear death. I don't think I ever did, but I don't fear it even more now when I kind of, this oneness thing, you ever hear about when people talk about like you feel like you all, like this oneness, the sense of one. We all come from one place and we go to one place. We're not different. We're just there's the string. Have you ever heard of the string theory? It's like it's like that's. It feels a lot like that, man. Like everything's like, this ain't it.
What is it?
This ain't it. This life, this world, this ain't just it. If that makes sense. There's more to it than here. And I don't know whether you call it God or gods or reincarnation or whatever. I don't think we can really. I think that's just us trying to humanize it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we try and humanize what God is. But can we really comprehend what God is? Not really. Just like an ant can't really comprehend what a human is. Back to that analogy. I don't think we can really. I think we just try and humanize God and heaven and this and that. But reincarnation, and I don't think we really understand it, and we just try and rationalize it because that's what we try and do. And
it's also, I feel like we may do those things, humanize and rationalize it to stop fear or promote fear as well. Both things, like
depends on whose team
how you're
on.
looking at it. Yeah, it's to
whose team
could be
you're
to
on.
promote fear, so live your life this way, or to stop fear and be present in life.
I'm at a real crossroads in my life where I really think our history isn't really our history. I think there's a lot more to it.
That's what
I think we've lost a lot.
That's what I was going to say when you're talking about books and like this is information back in the day.
How easy is it to burn a book and burn all them books and then that's all gone?
Or even
back then.
And then rewrite that but change a few things.
Rewrite
and when there was
it.
no internet and there was no, let me call this person that was here.
Imagine if they just changed a couple of pages in the book and then just put, how would you know they're printing the book?
Exactly.
How would you know that they've changed a few things? And over the hundreds of years, it's just integrated in. It's weird, man.
Like,
it's weird.
for example, just a basic example that I always teach in school is how Australia got civilized. Like, how the fuck do you know this happened? It's only what people have said have happened.
It's crazy,
and
man.
it's like the only thing. It's not the only thing to go off because you have paintings and rock paintings and like.
I think the timelines are off. I think a lot of people are in agreement that the timelines are off. I think, dude, this is the thing that baffles me so much. So I'm a lot into like ancient. I like a lot of ancient history, and I like things. I like things that are. I'm an odd dude. Like look at my shoes. These are, I got these.
Can
like
you chuck them up for the camera for a sec?
These are. I don't know what these are. This is all recycled. I'm pretty sure that's recycled. It's like this strange Nike flip floppy weird recycled thongs.
These are actually cracker. I like them.
You know what?
I'll rock them.
My son goes, where'd you get them grandpa shoes from? And I'm like, I'm a grandpa, leave me alone. But I'm an eccentric dude. I like weird stuff, and I like doing I design my own clothes and my own and I like that sort of oddity sort of stuff. And I'm into a lot of ancient history and lost history and like the pyramids and like the Aztecs and all the stuff in South America, all the stuff that they built, and they're like, oh, technology shouldn't be around them times. You've seen I think I'm going to pronounce it right, the Puma Punka in Bolivia, like these
the pyramids.
Like there's this place and they carve these H blocks out of solid stone. It's absolutely it's absolutely crazy, and they're like it's like it's been cut with a diamond saw. Like it is so specific and crazy, and no one.
You probably couldn't do it today.
And they say that we're the most advanced civilization that's ever lived on this planet with the greatest technology, and you can't.
How do you explain?
They can't tell us how the Egyptians lifted 60-ton stones 90 meters in the air. 60 like.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. If we're the most technologically advanced people, and we've got machinery and fuels and laser cutters and plasma cut, and these guys do it better 10,000 years ago, and we can't explain it. And they say that the pyramids were made by slaves, and there's no way that people nowadays would struggle recreating that. It's crazy, man. That stuff baffles me. I think there's a lot of stuff that's been lost. I think a lot of stuff has been suppressed. I think there's a lot of things like the word conspiracy theorist. Notice how you can't be a conspiracy theorist about fairy bread, or you can't be a conspiracy theorist about anything else unless it's about governments and control and all that. And then they just call you a conspiracy theorist.
People are just throwing this word around as the last 2 years at anyone that questions anything.
Conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theorist.
Things that have come true.
Listen to this.
Conspiracy theorist.
You want me to spin you the fuck out? So in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and even into the 90s and slowly petering out in the year 2000s and now what's out there, if you said anything about aliens, you were an absolute crazy person. People, listen to this. People have probably lost families, lost jobs, been locked up, been fucking, probably killed himself over thinking that they were crazy because they're like, I literally seen a UFO split, and then these people like ruck up in black suits with glasses, and then they go, you see nothing, that was just swamp gas, son. Go back inside. Yeah. And now they're like, oh yeah, these things, they've been flying around forever.
It's true.
They've been flying out, and they've been flying out of the ocean, and they're flying around out. Oh, here's a bloody pilot videoing these things from his cockpit as he's flying the plane, and then
for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about here, the Pentagon is confirming,
all these
sightings,
things,
UFO sightings, and they have pictures and saying this is true, and they're saying it in the last 2 years when everyone's focused on everything else.
It's crazy. So this whole
You think aliens are real?
I think it's preposterous to think we're the only things in this whole massive universe. Whether they were, because imagine, listen to this. Imagine the aliens are just versions of us from the past that have found a way to go and come back. Like imagine. Do you know how we've evolved to develop technologies? Yeah. So now our technologies are almost godlike. Yeah. Like we were saying, imagine if people evolved in different ways, inwards instead of outwards, creating things, and they've figured out how to detach their souls from their bodies and their or whatever. Who knows? Imagine if these things are just different versions of us. Imagine if this. We've only explored 2% of the ocean. Imagine if there's different versions of us living underneath the ocean in the depths. That have evolved a different way. So we've evolved caveman sort of way, and then we've found fire, and then we've created these combustible things, and really we're destroying the earth. The earth is slowly becoming inhabitable. So we've kind of gone down this road, not harmoniously living with it, just destroying it and ripping the minerals and shit out of it, really making the world uninhabitable, overpopulated. It's crazy. Man-made viruses and man-made wars and man-made poverty and man-made invisible social things. It's kind of weird. Like, because you got more melanin in your skin, you're seen as different, or because you believe in a different God. Like, it's super strange. So imagine if people didn't develop that way. They developed a different way. Inwards or...
the brain. How much of the brain, I don't know the number, but we're only able to use certain...
I don't know. I've heard about that. I think that got debunked. I don't know. There's that. We need a Jamie. Jamie, pull that up.
Where the fuck are you, Jamie?
Jamie, hey,
listen,
if someone wants to apply for a Jamie role,
DM me.
And then we'll pay you in Krispy Kremes. Oh, I love a Krispy Kreme.
Well, I don't have cash to give you, but...
Krispy Kremes. We'll buy a box of Krispy Kremes next time, and we'll share them with you. So
listen, I don't know how
you don't have to be named Jamie Evo. That's just
we'll just call you.
That's
Jamie.
not a prerequisite.
I don't know how the fuck we got here, but it's been 56 minutes of
everything, and we haven't even talked about boxing.
So what's gonna happen is this is the part 1. I'm gonna put this out in 2 parts.
Yeah,
I'm gonna change the battery of this camera because it's fucking. This is all natural too. We have not talked about anything from my notes.
It's crazy. We've gone so off.
Fuck this off.
Fuck that off.
I'm going to change these batteries. This is part 1. So if you've watched part 1, thank you for coming this far. You would have enjoyed it. Next week will be part 2. And we're going to get into boxing, business, a bit of the indigenous stuff.
Indigenous stuff.
The Olympic stuff you talked about.
For sure.
So let's change these batteries and...
We're going to keep rolling?
Yeah, we're going to keep fucking up. We're going to keep rolling.
Let's go.
For part 1's sake, we'll see you next week.
Okay. Peace. Thanks for joining us. Yep.